Hello everyone, Nathan here. So, this video has been a long time coming. Many of you understand what's been going on with my channels and with me personally, but for those who don't, I'll give you a brief rundown. Summer of 2023, I had a flood in my basement, which understandably put things to a huge halt on my channels, in terms of streaming, video production, everything. And just when things were starting to get better, when I was getting a better handle on things, getting ready to get a more consistent schedule, something even worse happened. On January 17th of 2024, I was laid off from my job as a web developer for 5 years. And of course, as typically per layoffs, I was given no heads up whatsoever. However, I finally, after so long, after a year and 3 months, I finally have some good news. Starting on March 24th of this year, 2025, I'll be starting my new job. It's kind of both exciting and terrifying because it's going to be dealing with a lot of new technologies that I haven't worked with before, and I want to make sure that I can impress my new boss. So, with all of that said, I want to just kind of do an off-the-cuff type video about this year and 3 months, this journey that I've been on. This video will probably be a bit rambly, hopefully not too emotional. I may even get mildly political at times. And to be honest, I'm not really sure that there's some big lesson or takeaway I have to offer. It's just a bunch of bad shit that happened. And I kind of want to talk about it because it was such a monumental time in my life. I'm not really sure the best place to start with all of this, so I guess I'll just kind of start at the beginning when it all went down. When I first got the news about being laid off, I actually wasn't that worried at first. See, I was laid off before, back in 2018 on December 4th, so right before Christmas was starting. But I actually managed to bounce back within 2 weeks, and I was able to go into the Christmas break with with at least knowing that there was a job waiting for me in the new year. So I was able to, relax during that time. I assumed that it would be a similar experience this time. I was, trying to reassure my wife and everybody else, like, don't worry, I'm gonna get something. We'll just, I'll start applying to places. It's all gonna work out. Maybe this will be better in the long run. But what I didn't know at the time was that the job market, not just mine for my industry, but for many, many others, the market was just destroyed. I've got neighbors with, teenage sons and daughters who can't even get jobs in retail. There's just nothing available. And so, to my horror, the worry started slowly growing as time went on. I would apply to places and hear absolutely nothing back, or I would get the occasional interview that would seem to go well. It would, throughout the year, I'd get, interviews with people, and they would seem to be really hopeful, and then they would come back not long after to tell me that they went with somebody else. Now, saying that out loud, you may think that, okay, well, he was applying all year, he probably had a lot of interviews. Nope. I had about 5 or 6 interviews in the entirety of 2024. It was fucking pathetic. And so you might think, okay, well, maybe it's a qualifications issue, or maybe it's a lack of experience. No. I've been a web developer for 14 years. I'm no slouch. I know what I'm doing, and I'm highly adaptable to learning new types of technologies. And yet nobody had any interest in hiring me. Even in jobs where I checked off all the boxes, like I checked off all of the qualifications, which is, sometimes not always the case. And still nothing. So, as you can imagine, that put a lot of stress on myself and my family. During this stressful time, my wife and I had to do our very best to make sure that the kids were completely unaware that any of this was going on, because the kids don't need that kind of stress in their lives. I mean, the little one, he's 3. He doesn't really understand any of that, of course, but, my eldest son is 10 now. So, he may not have any job experience, of course, but he understands if you tell him that, hey, I've lost my job, he understands that that's bad. And even though I've gotten a new job, I still haven't, like, he knows that I'm getting a new job, but I still didn't tell him that I lost the previous one, because then he's going to go around worrying, like, well, you know, are you going to lose the new job? And yeah, the kids don't need that. So, of course, while we're, you know, putting on a happy face and trying to be positive, underneath the surface, we were struggling financially even worse than we had before. Eventually, towards the end of the year, I got in contact with some people that had invited me to a networking event where I could actually meet potential employers face-to-face and hand out business cards, that kind of thing. That was back in November, and that would eventually be what landed me the job that I have now, since one of those potential employers gave me a call back the very next day and wanted to talk business. Now, the process took longer than I really wanted it to, because it was delayed by the Christmas break and a bunch of other factors. But after doing some back and forth, you know, during this new year, I'm finally about to start with this new company. I wish I could be excited for it, and I always thought, like, I always dreamed that I would be excited for it, but to be honest, I'm too scared to be excited. You know? It's not a feeling of like, yay, I got a new job. It's more of a feeling of like, holy shit, I better not fuck this up. And after not working a proper job in, you know, over a year, yeah, that's kind of scary. And it makes me have a lot of doubts. It makes me wonder if I can get back into the groove again, you know, get back into a routine, or if I'll find it to be mundane and annoying. My worry is that I've grown some sort of aversion to work, which would really bother me, because I kind of fucking hate people like that. It's like, you know, that's like the communist mentality. I can't be like that. I can't be one of those people. You know, people that aren't willing to work for themselves, like, I find that detestable, and I don't want to find out that that's what I've become. I don't want to do that. You know, having a complete and total lack of independence, you know, to want to depend on handouts and everything else, it's just not a good thing. It just isn't. You know, I'm worried that after not working so long, I may have been affected in ways that I don't even realize yet. So I've got about a week from now to mentally buckle myself down and prepare for this and be ready to impress, because I don't want to fuck this up. You know, after a year and 3 months, this isn't just a new opportunity. It feels more like it's my last hope, because if I were to lose this job, I really don't know what the hell I would do. I'd really have to strongly consider changing industries entirely, like going into a trade or something, which scares the hell out of me, because I don't even know what I would do. I mean, I sort of have an idea. I think maybe I would go into a trade, or maybe I would start working at the hospital, because, you know, it's where my wife works. It's unionized, and it's really hard to get into, but it's unionized, which I have lots of opinions on unions, trust me on that, but I would have job security, and that's long-term what I may end up doing eventually, because I want job security. Like, I never want to go through this again. But I mean, at this stage of my life, you know, having a wife, having kids, having a mortgage to deal with, this is not the time to start from scratch. At least not for me. You know, maybe that works for some people, but I don't want to do that. So, now that you pretty much know, you know, what my journey has been like, I kind of wanted to talk about the effects that it had on me, because I don't know, maybe you or somebody you know is going through something similar, or has gone through something similar. But as you can imagine, going through that stress did a lot to me. I had to do my best not to be constantly freaking out, because that's just no way to conduct yourself. You know, it's not productive. It's not good for me. It's not good for anybody around me. But I would honestly say that it took its toll both on my mental and physical health. The constant job searching meant that I wasn't making time for other things. You know, I was sacrificing time with my family, so I was becoming self-conscious of who I was as a husband, as a father, and you know, I wasn't able to I wasn't able to find any opportunity to work in a meaningful exercise routine into my life because there just simply wasn't time for that. I had to keep at it. And doing that kind of thing, like getting in shape, like getting a proper diet going, I was on the cusp of doing all that before everything went down. Like after the basement was finally restored from the flood, it was kind of like, okay, we're doing this. This is happening now. But instead, I was thrown into this situation, and I started giving in to more temptations, and I'm not proud to admit I ended up gaining weight. I don't think it was a ton more, but I certainly didn't. I'm certainly worse now than I was at the start of 2024. That's definitely for sure. And that's because my mental health was affected in such a way that I kind of stopped giving a shit about resisting things that I knew I should resist. And when you're the provider, when you're the main source of income for your family, your wife and your kids for so long, and then suddenly have that taken away, maybe you'd be surprised to hear this, maybe you wouldn't, but it actually started to feel quite emasculating after a while. And I shouldn't feel that way. I shouldn't have been made to feel less manly because I was put into a completely unfair situation that I was of no doing of my own. I didn't put myself in that situation. It was put on me. But that's simply what it does to you. It makes you feel that way, like rightly or wrongly. As a man, there's an inherent need to provide. And not being able to do so, it just feels awful. It feels like you can't imagine. Or maybe you can, because maybe you have been through that. I don't know. But it's one of those things that you feel like will never happen to you. It'll never happen to you or your family. But until it finally does. And I never thought I would face a big struggle like that, but it happened to me, and in a really big way. It was tough. It was really fucking tough, and I predict that it will still be tough for a little while because I'm going to need to take some time to, build up the funds that I should have had all this time, and, that's going to be a bit of a process. The one good thing that did certainly come from all of this is that my marriage was, it was kind of put to the test in a good way. Because I wasn't making a lot of money. I was only making what I was making through unemployment insurance, which was not a lot, not even close to what I was making before. And in my mind, I was probably the least desirable that I had ever been in my life. With the weight gain and the loss of funds, it was a pretty awful feeling. But my wife showed her true colors in a really positive way. She was extremely supportive. She stuck through me through the whole thing, and those are the kinds of things that can put stress on a marriage. I was afraid, because I was really afraid that it was going to negatively affect my marriage. Again, rightly or wrongly, that is a common thing that happens. But she was always there to put those concerns to rest. And she did so great. She was so understanding. And I really can't thank her enough for that, because I don't know how I would have been able to handle it. I don't think I could have handled it if she hadn't been that way. I needed her, and she was just there. She was there for me. I think most relationships, most marriages go through struggles and periods of doubt in one form or another. And on my worst days, I had thoughts in the back of my head wondering if my wife would start to have really bad thoughts and feelings about me. And she put those worries to rest over and over again. And now that we're finally at the other side of it, it kind of feels like we can last through anything. I feel like our marriage can handle anything. I feel like I can do anything. And it'll turn out okay in the end. So even though I'm scared to start this job and I'm worried that I'm not going to be up to the task and all that, I'm not going to let any of that get in my way. I'm going to be a go-getter, and I'm going to make it no matter what it takes. I gotta say though, what still really pisses me off about this is that none of it ever needed to happen. I never had to have this hit on my finances and have to go into fucking debt further than I was before. I could drone on and on about the mind-numbingly stupid decisions that my old boss had made that eventually led to me getting laid off. Or rather, it was too stupid to be stupid. It was probably actually a long-term plan to get rid of the lot of us, because it wasn't just me that was laid off. It was a bunch of us. And I could talk about how much I hate our fucking goddamn stupid governments that get in the way of everything and put policies in place that absolutely fuck our job markets and destroy our fucking economies and fucking constantly raping our wallets. But it's shit that you guys have all heard before, so I really don't know that I could add much more to it. It's probably shit that you guys have already heard before. I got a pretty based crowd tuning in, so I know that you guys can probably fill in the blanks and read between the lines. I'm sure that you understand. So I guess I won't speak much further on that aspect of things. I guess the closest thing that I could give to you guys in terms of advice, if you were to ever find yourself in a similar position, or if you are currently in such a position, is to lean on your loved ones and ones that you trust. I really can't stress that enough. And I understand that pride can really get in the way of that. It can needlessly get in the way because it doesn't feel good to ask for help. And I did have to ask for help, and I fucking hated it. But you need to do it. You need to cling to your loved ones. You need to lean on people, and you need to put your pride aside and ask for favors sometimes. You've got to do it for your sanity and your survival. Also, I think online job postings like on Indeed and Glassdoor and LinkedIn, I think those places might actually be fucking useless. Yeah, I really do. I don't think that I don't even know that most of the places that I applied to even saw my application to begin with. I don't know if they were just there to collect my data or not, or I don't fucking know. I just know that I applied to a whole bunch of fucking places and it didn't do shit. So, but the thing is, to be honest, I'm not really sure where else you can look, because nobody wants to take your resume in person anymore. Yeah, and trust me, I tried. There were some places I went to and I tried to give them a physical resume, and they were just like, no, don't give that to us. Apply online. They're literally refusing a resume right there in front of them. You're like, nope, don't give us that. And the only one I actually handed in one physical resume, and that was to a construction place. And of course I didn't hear back, so, whatever. The fuck ever. I think that employment agencies might seemingly be pretty fucking useless too. Like a lot of employers don't even want to hear from paid agencies, and like they find them annoying, they find it irritating, which I guess is understandable in hindsight. And then there's also like, not-for-profit job seekers and stuff like that, but they also seem useless because it seems like they just do the same shit that you would do. Like they just look for jobs that you could otherwise find yourself and send you applications that you would otherwise find yourself. At least that was my experience. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you've got a guy in your area that's better, who knows his shit and knows how to actually help people. But what did actually seem helpful was to get in touch with organizations that arrange networking events, to be able to speak to face-to-face with potential employers. That was the big thing. That actually, well, okay, the first time that I actually went to that event, I mean, there were other like job fairs, but they were jobs that nobody fucking wanted, and they're again jobs that I couldn't even get into because I wasn't qualified for. But in this case, it was like the networking event were, with potential employers that I absolutely could work for. But, it's harder to get into those kind of things. It's harder to find that kind of thing. And even when you do, they might not be hosting any networking events for weeks or months out from when you actually need it. So, yeah, none of that is financial advice, by the way. It's just more of what my own personal experience was and what I had to deal with. And aside from that, let's see. My old boss can absolutely suck my entire dick and balls. And I hope his company crashes and fucking burns because he's a fucking slimy, two-faced, diseased cocksucker. And he got to the top of the company by screwing others over. He fucked his business partner. And he's not worthy of any sort of respect because he's a dirty, slimy pig fucker. Oh, sorry. I had to get that out of my system. I had to put that out there because, like, fuck, my God, I don't think I've ever hated another human being more than that before. I really don't. So with all of that said, what does this actually mean for my channels? On to the fun stuff now. We're on to more fun things, brighter things. And of course I say channels because it's across multiple platforms, but you guys know that. At first, not much is going to change. Video postings are still going to be quite infrequent. Streams will be infrequent, and that might continue for a few weeks, maybe even a few months. But I hope it won't last that long. And the reason for that is because the first few months of a job are the probationary period, which basically means they can get rid of you for absolutely any reason whatsoever without notice. And what was I going to say about that? Yeah, so obviously I want to avoid that. So it may involve a lot of evenings of just making sure that I take my time to fully understand how the job works, how some of these newer technologies that I haven't worked with before are understood, all that kind of stuff. It's time for me to really dig in and make sure that I'm delivering for them, no matter what it takes, and make sure that they are happy that they hired me. I have to make absolute sure of that because I want to make sure that, and I also want to make sure that whatever they teach me is going to be learned and learned quickly, because I have to respect the fact that that's actually quite an investment on their part. They are quite literally investing time and money into me because they're interested in seeing the developer that I will eventually become and how I will continue to adapt. The good news is they have made it clear a number of times that they're not looking for something temporary. They're not looking to just bring me on to slog through some backlog and ditch me, but rather they're looking for somebody long-term to be with them for years to come, which is, of course, what I'm looking for, too. Now, that said, will the company that I'm working for now be the same one that I work for until I retire? Well, that's hard to say, honestly, because, I thought the same thing of my last few jobs. I ended up, first one I quit, but the rest of them I all ended up getting laid off from at some point. So if will it be the job that I keep until I retire? It's really hard to say. I'm just gonna have to make sure I keep my head on a swivel and make sure that I look out for any potential warning signs. And if I do, I'll have to get out while the getting's good. Break up with them before they can break up with me, essentially. But I really hope that doesn't happen, because, God, what a soul-sucking experience this has been. Like, just looking for a new job, even when you've still got one, sucks. But when you're looking for a new job when you don't have one, it's agony. And I never want to find myself in that position again. But after all that is said and done, I should be able to get back on a regular schedule again and, start uploading daily, consistently streaming every week. And I can't wait for that, because it's something that I have enjoyed for so many years and I'm not ready to let go of, not anytime soon. And now that I've got this new computer, it means that I have access to so many more game titles, both old and new. And I can't wait to stream and play and have you guys as an audience again. Which brings me to the next part, actually. There are a number of you that have stuck by in one form or another, whether it's through the channels or social media or whatever else. And even though my schedule has been completely inconsistent and in some cases little to no activity, there are so many of you that have stuck by and continue to interact and tune in, and it honestly means so much to me, more than you realize. I'm so appreciative and so grateful that you guys still want to stick around, because when things started getting serious in my life, I kind of assumed that it was all going to disappear, that it was going to disappear for good. And I couldn't be happier to be wrong about that. I think that pretty much covers everything that I wanted to say in this update video. And my hope is that I'll get more content going soon. Even if it's not entirely consistent or entirely frequent, maybe I can, get things going a little bit more than they have been over the last year or so. And, until eventually I'm up to the point where it's going full tilt again. So, yeah, I think that's it. Later this week, I'll post another video, and I'm hopefully going to stream this Friday or Saturday night, to squeeze in one last one before the new job starts. And until then, thanks for tuning in. I will see you in the next game.